Today, in just a few hours, I'll walk into the Swedish Parliament chambers, just a few meters away from where I'm standing right now, to vote on legislation that could change the lives of thousands of families in this country. If you live in Sweden, especially if you are here as an immigrant with your family, if you're a parent or someone with family abroad, I need you to understand what is going on, what is being decided today. Because behind all the legal language and titles that you might read, there's one painful, simple question. Should the state make it harder for people to live with their families and their loved ones? Let me explain exactly what the government is proposing that we'll be voting on this afternoon. First, 2-year rule. For certain people with temporary residence permits in this country, the general rule will be that they must have lived in Sweden for at least 2 years before they can bring their families here to join them. So you have to live here 2 years before your family can join you. Think about what that means in real life. If you're a parent, you escaped from war, you left your family back home, and every time you talk to them, they ask you, when are we going to be able to join you? You can't bring them here because the new law is saying that you have to live here 2 years before you have the right to be able to bring your family to join you. Now, first of all, you have to wait for 2 years. And after 2 years, when you apply, you have to wait for immigration to process your application. And that might take a year or more. So the chances are your children are going to grow up without you. The risk of facing all kinds of difficulties without you is imminent. Secondly, your income can determine whether your family can live together. Now, the government, within this new law, wants tougher maintenance requirement covering more financial situations. And critically, those requirements can also matter when an existing family based in Sweden, someone that lives here with their family, want to extend their residence permit. Now imagine this. Your family already lives together in Sweden. Your children go to school here. You work and you pay taxes here. You have built a home. You've built a life in this country. Then one day you lose your job. Your partner becomes ill. And suddenly, alongside worrying about paying your rent and food, now you have to worry about what your financial situation means for your family and their rights to remain together. That means that if you do not fulfill financial requirement because you lost your job or because your wife got ill, you and your entire family might be deported. Doesn't matter how long you've been living here. If you're a family of 4, 2 children, 2 parents, you fulfill the requirements of 52,000, and all of a sudden you want to have a 3rd child, the financial requirement increases over 10,000 Swedish crowns more, from 52,000, I think, to 64,000. Now, if you are unable to fulfill that, then you have to make a decision. Should I keep this child, or should I have the child and then the chances are one of the children will be deported or separated or my family will be deported? Imagine that. The third one is the legal rights are being weakened. Now, in parts of the legislation, the legal meaning changes from the residence permit shall be granted to one that may be granted. Now, these are 2 tiny words, shall and may. But legally, the difference are enormous. Shall creates an obligation when the legal conditions are fulfilled. When you fulfill the legal conditions, you shall get the residence permit. Changing it to may gives the authorities greater discretion, which means even if you fulfill the legal conditions, you might not get a residence permit. The third element of this legislation is the one that has to do with the young people, the youth. As you may have been reading in the newspapers, a lot of young people are deported from Sweden. The moment they turn 18, some of them have been living here their entire lives and they have their families here and they went to school here, they have their friends, they speak the language, they know the culture, they have not committed any crimes, they're law-abiding, but yet they're arrested the moment they turn 18 and deported. Now that the election is here, all of a sudden the government is saying that they're proposing in this legislation to be able to move their ages from 18 to 21. Now, instead of deporting people, they've deported hundreds and hundreds of them, separated them from their family already. But the ones that are here and have not been deported yet, they're saying, we're going to give you an opportunity to be able to stay here until you turn 21. But then the question is, what happens when they turn 21? They'll be arrested and deported too and separated from their families. So this is just a way of trying to move the goalpost and try to pretend as if they really care, whilst they actually don't. I want you to understand the direction Sweden is taking right now. The government's stated ambition is to move Sweden and Swedish rules closer to the minimum level required under the EU law. Minimum. Think about that. When we are talking about children, we're talking about families, we're talking about human rights and human lives. Since when did minimum humanity become Sweden's ambition? A family is not a migration policy instrument. You cannot separate children from their families. A child is not a deterrent. So today, I and other members of parliament will be voting, and it will take us seconds to press that button. But the consequences of this decision will last years, and it's going to affect so many people. This is about what kind of Sweden we are becoming, a racist country. And to everyone watching who has the right to vote in September, do not tell yourself politics does not concern you, because it does. They're coming after you. Do not surrender your voice. Pay attention. Speak up. Organize. Make sure you go and vote. Because politicians will make decisions today that affect your life. But in September, by God, the people will make that decision. If you didn't know, now you know.